You've probably noticed it. The white crust around your faucet, the film on your shower door that never fully comes off no matter how hard you scrub, the soap that won't lather properly, the dry, tight feeling your skin gets after a shower even though you're using moisturizer every single day. Most people blame the products. Wrong soap, wrong shampoo, wrong skincare routine. They upgrade the conditioner, switch to a different body wash, spend more money on creams and serums. The skin stays dry, the hair stays dull, the eczema keeps coming back. Almost nobody thinks to look at the water. The water in roughly 85% of American homes is classified as hard water, and hard water is doing things to your skin, your hair, your gut, and your kidneys that dermatologists, gastroenterologists, and nephrologists are increasingly documenting in peer-reviewed research. It's not a cosmetic inconvenience. For a significant portion of the population, it's a genuine health variable that has never been discussed with them by anyone. This is what hard water actually is, what it's doing to your body, and what the difference between hard and soft water means in practice for the people living in it. Subscribe, and let's get into it. Part 1. What hard water actually is. Water is not just water. By the time it reaches your tap, it's traveled through a geological journey that changed its chemistry in ways that vary dramatically depending on where you live. Here's how it works. Rain is essentially distilled water when it falls from the sky. It starts almost mineral-free, but the moment it hits the ground and begins filtering down through soil and rock toward the aquifers and reservoirs that supply municipal water systems, it starts picking up dissolved minerals. What minerals it picks up depends entirely on what kinds of rock it passes through. In areas where the ground is rich in limestone, chalk, or dolomite, water absorbs calcium and magnesium carbonate as it filters through. Both of these are divalent cations, positively charged ions that dissolve readily into water from those rock formations. By the time that water reaches a treatment facility and then your tap, it's carrying measurable concentrations of calcium and magnesium that it picked up from the geology underground. That mineral-loaded water is what we call hard water. The hardness is a direct measurement of calcium and magnesium concentration, expressed in milligrams per liter or in grains per gallon. The higher the concentration, the harder the water. The U.S. Geological Survey classifies water as follows. Soft water contains less than 60 milligrams of calcium carbonate per liter. Moderately hard water runs from 61 to 120 milligrams. Hard water runs from 121 to 180 milligrams. And very hard water is anything above 180 milligrams per liter. For reference, much of the water in the American Southwest, the Midwest, and the Mid-Atlantic falls into the hard to very hard category. Cities like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Indianapolis, San Antonio, and Denver routinely supply water above 200 milligrams per liter. Parts of Texas and Arizona run significantly higher than that. The Pacific Northwest and New England, where granite geology is more common, tend toward softer water. But most of the country is drinking water that sits somewhere in the hard range, often without any knowledge of what that means for their health. Soft water, by contrast, is water with low mineral count. It can occur naturally in areas with non-soluble geology like granite. It's also the result of a process called ion exchange water softening, where calcium and magnesium ions are replaced with sodium ions by passing the water through a resin tank. We'll come back to that when we talk about treatment options, because the sodium exchange raises its own health questions that the softener industry doesn't always volunteer. The important thing to establish first is why any of this matters physiologically, because the answer is not immediately obvious, and it's more significant than most people realize. Part 2. What hard water does to your skin. Start with skin, because it's where the effects are most visible and most immediately attributable once you understand the mechanism. Your skin has a natural protective barrier. It's called the stratum corneum, and it functions like a brick wall. The bricks are dead skin cells. The mortar between them is a mixture of lipids, primary ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids. That lipid mortar is what keeps moisture inside the skin and keeps irritants outside. It maintains the skin's natural pH, which sits at around 5.5, mildly acidic. Hard water disrupts this barrier in two specific ways. The first is direct chemical interference. Calcium and magnesium ions react with the fatty acids in skin and in the soaps and cleansers you use, When calcium or magnesium ions encounter fatty acid chains in soap, they form what are called metal soaps or soap scum. You see this in the bowl demonstration. Hard water produces that murky, cloudy film instead of clear lather. The same chemistry is happening on your skin. Instead of rinsing cleanly, soap in hard water precipitates into a residue that clings to the skin surface. That residue sits in pores, raises the skin's pH, and contributes to the cycle of dryness, flaking, and irritation. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology tested this directly. Researchers washed the forearms of adult volunteers in hard versus soft water and measured the effects on the skin barrier. Hard water washing measurably increased water loss through the skin surface, reduced the effectiveness of the lipid barrier, and elevated skin surface pH. Every one of those changes is a risk factor for inflammation and sensitivity. The second mechanism is more subtle. Calcium ions, at the concentrations found in hard water, have been shown to affect the behavior of filaggrin, a protein that plays a critical role in maintaining skin barrier function and regulating the natural moisturizing factors that keep skin hydrated. Research from King's College London found that hard water damaged the skin barrier in mouse models through this filaggrin pathway, and that the effect was measurable, even at calcium concentrations comparable to standard hard tap water. The same research group is conducting ongoing studies in human subjects. For people with eczema, this is not background noise. Eczema, or atopic dermatitis, is fundamentally a skin barrier dysfunction disease. The filaggrin gene is one of the most commonly mutated genes in people with eczema. Research published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology found a significant correlation between residential hard water exposure in infancy and subsequent development of eczema. A large UK study called the SOFT trial, which gave families of eczema-prone infants water softeners, found that softened water reduced eczema severity scores. The effect wasn't dramatic enough to call water softening a cure, but the directional evidence is consistent. Hard water is an environmental factor that makes eczema worse, particularly in people who are already genetically predisposed to barrier dysfunction. For everyone else, the effects are less severe but cumulative. The skin feels tight after washing. Moisturizer seems to disappear almost immediately. Fine lines around the eyes and mouth appear more prominent than they did a few years ago. Acne that responds to treatment keeps recurring. None of these things are caused by hard water alone, but hard water is the substrate they're all occurring against, and addressing the substrate changes the environment the skin is living in. There's a simple test you can do at home that roughly demonstrates the mechanism. Take a bar of soap and work it into a bowl of tap water. If the water goes cloudy and milky, and then the soap produces very little lather, you're looking at hard water chemistry. If it lathers freely and stays relatively clear, your water is on the softer side. It's not a precise measurement, but it shows you exactly what's happening every time you wash your face or step into the shower. Part 3. What hard water does to your hair. The scalp is skin. Everything just described about the skin barrier applies to the scalp as well, with the added complexity of the hair shaft itself. Hair shafts are covered in a layer of microscopic scales called the cuticle. In healthy hair, those cuticle scales lie flat and overlapping, like roof tiles, which gives hair its smooth texture, light reflective shine, and structural integrity. When the cuticle is raised or damaged, the hair becomes porous, rough in texture, prone to tangling, and loses its ability to retain moisture. Hard water raises the cuticle. A study published in the International Journal of Trichology in 2016 directly compared hair samples washed in hard versus soft water under electron microscopy. The hard water samples showed measurably rougher cuticle surfaces and were significantly more prone to breakage than the soft water samples. A separate 2018 study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology found that hair tensile strength was lower after repeated exposure to hard water, meaning the hair was structurally weaker and more likely to break under the stress of brushing or styling. The mechanism is the same calcium and magnesium chemistry. Minerals deposit on the hair shaft over repeated washing. They interact with the anionic surfactants in shampoos to form insoluble precipitates that coat the cuticle and prevent it from lying flat. Over time, this builds up in a way that regular shampoo cannot fully remove, because the mineral deposits themselves are not soluble in water without a chelating agent. This is why people who move from a soft water city to a hard water city often notice their hair changing within weeks. It's not the new climate, it's not stress, it's the water. The reverse is also true. People who install water softeners at home or who start using filtered shower water frequently report improvements in hair texture and manageability within a month, sometimes faster. The scalp specifically takes on the same issues as skin more broadly: raised pH, disrupted lipid barrier, increased likelihood of dryness and flaking. Chronic scalp irritation from hard water exposure creates an environment where dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis, and follicle inflammation are all more likely to persist. If you've been treating scalp conditions with medicated shampoos and getting incomplete results, the water you're washing in is worth considering as a confounding variable. There is one nuance worth adding. Calcium and magnesium are not inherently bad for hair. In fact, some research suggests that moderately hard water may be preferable to very soft or distilled water for hair health, because completely mineral-free water may actually swell the hair shaft and cause a different type of damage. The problem is specifically with very hard water and with the soap scum and mineral deposit buildup that comes with it, not with minerals in water per se. The goal isn't to remove every mineral from your water. It's to reduce the concentration to a range where the negative chemistry stops dominating. Part 4. What hard water does to your gut. This section is more contested in the research than the skin and the hair sections, but the evidence is worth knowing. Magnesium in water has a well-characterized effect on the gut. At hard water concentrations, it acts as a mild osmotic agent in the colon, drawing water into the intestinal lumen. This is why magnesium is used therapeutically as a laxative at higher doses. At drinking water concentrations, the effect is subtle for most people, but for individuals with irritable bowel syndrome or sensitive gut function, the mineral load in hard water can contribute to looser stools and digestive discomfort they've never connected to their water supply. A 2019 study in the journal Nutrients found that water hardness correlated with measurable changes in gut microbiome composition in human subjects, specifically shifting the ratio of bacterial species in ways that may affect short-chain fatty acid production, a key output of beneficial gut bacteria linked to immune function and inflammation. Causation hasn't been definitively established, but the direction is consistent. Here's the important counterpoint. Calcium and magnesium from hard water are genuinely bioavailable minerals. People who drink hard water absorb meaningful dietary amounts of both, contributing to bone density, cardiovascular function, and nerve signaling. Multiple epidemiological studies have found inverse relationships between water hardness and cardiovascular mortality. The WHO considers this evidence sufficient to recommend minimum levels of both minerals in drinking water and actively cautions against fully demineralized water. That is the hard water paradox. The same minerals that damage your skin and hair from the outside are beneficial when consumed internally. That distinction matters enormously for how you think about treatment. Part 5. What hard water does to your kidneys. Roughly 1 in 10 Americans will develop a kidney stone at some point in their life. About 80% of those are calcium oxalate stones, which form when calcium and oxalate in the urine reach concentrations high enough to crystallize. The intuitive assumption is that hard water, being high in calcium, directly raises kidney stone risk. The research is more complicated. Some studies do find a correlation between water hardness and stone incidence. Others find no significant association, and some find a protective effect, because dietary calcium actually binds to oxalate in the gut, reducing the amount that reaches the kidneys in the first place. What the research more consistently shows is that the relevant risk factor is urine volume, not water hardness per se. Drinking enough fluid to keep urine consistently pale and dilute is the most effective thing most people can do to reduce kidney stone risk, regardless of whether that water is hard or soft. Where hardness does matter is for people already diagnosed with hypercalciuria, a condition where the kidneys excrete abnormally high calcium even at normal intake levels. For those individuals, every source of dietary calcium, including drinking water, meaningfully increases stone forming risk. If you have recurrent calcium oxalate stones and a diagnosis of hypercalciuria, the hardness of your water is a variable worth discussing with your nephrologist. For everyone else, the skin and hair arguments are the more universally applicable reason to address hard water. Part 6. The home damage is also real. Limescale, the white mineral crust on your faucets, shower head, kettle, and inside your water heater, is calcium carbonate that is precipitated out of solution as water was heated or evaporated. Every appliance that heats water in your home is accumulating it on its heating elements. Limescale is an excellent thermal insulator. Research by water treatment engineers has found that just 1.5 millimeters of buildup requires roughly 12% more energy to heat to the same temperature. At half a centimeter, that reaches 40%. Appliances fail earlier, pipes narrow, water pressure drops. The indirect health angle? People fighting scale are cleaning with increasingly aggressive descaling chemicals in enclosed shower spaces more frequently than they realize. The scale is the symptom. The water chemistry is the cause. Part 7. What to actually do about it. The instinct when people hear about hard water is to get a whole house water softener. A salt-based ion exchange softener replaces calcium and magnesium with sodium ions. The result is genuinely soft water. No more limescale, no more soap scum, noticeably better skin and hair within weeks. But two things the water softener industry doesn't always tell you. First, softened water isn't ideal for drinking. The sodium added depends on how hard your incoming water is. 2 sodium ions for every calcium or magnesium displaced. For healthy people, this is usually fine. But for anyone managing hypertension, heart disease, or kidney disease, softened water shouldn't be their primary drinking source. Most installers leave the kitchen cold tap unsoftened for exactly this reason. Second, softening removes the minerals that are beneficial to consume. The WHO recommends minimum levels of calcium and magnesium in drinking water. A house on fully softened water everywhere loses that mineral contribution. The approach most consistent with the research? Soften the water used for bathing and appliances. Keep drinking water unsoftened. There are alternatives. Salt-free template-assisted crystallization systems don't remove calcium and magnesium. They change the physical form of the minerals so they no longer deposit as hardscale. The skin and hair effects are reduced but not eliminated to the same degree as ion exchange. For people who want to address scale without sodium exchange or ongoing salt maintenance, it's a reasonable middle option. Shower filters are the most accessible entry point. A filter incorporating KDF media and activated carbon reduces chlorine, chloramines, and some heavy metals from shower water. They don't address hardness fully, but they remove the chemical irritation layer at low cost and easy installation. For drinking water, a reverse osmosis system under the sink strips both contaminants and minerals. Many RO systems now include a remineralization cartridge to add beneficial calcium and magnesium back into the output, which addresses the mineral loss concern directly. The practical hierarchy? Very hard water with significant skin and hair issues warrants a whole house softener with an unsoftened drinking tap. A lower cost entry is a shower filter plus an under-sink drinking filter. Primarily concerned about drinking water quality? A standalone RO system handles that without affecting the rest of the house. Before any of this, the first step is knowing your number. Your utility's consumer confidence report includes water hardness data. It's published annually. Most people throw it away unread. Find it. Look at the hardness figure in milligrams per liter of calcium carbonate. Above 120 is hard. Above 180 is very hard. If you're above 120 and dealing with the symptoms in this video, the water is not a coincidence. The bottom line. 85% of Americans live with hard water. Most of them have never been told what it does to the body. They've been told their skin is just dry. Their eczema is just genetic. Their hair is just damaged from heat styling. Their shampoo isn't working because they need a better one. Sometimes those things are true, but they are all occurring in the context of water that is landing on skin and hair and reacting with minerals in ways that are now well characterized in the dermatological and trichological literature. The skin barrier research, the filigran pathway, the cuticle damage studies, the eczema trials. The evidence is consistent enough that ignoring water as a variable while treating the symptoms is a bit like treating smoke inhalation while the fire is still burning. The minerals in hard water are not the enemy. Calcium and magnesium are essential nutrients. Consumed in drinking water, they are genuinely protective. The cardiovascular data goes back decades. The WHO has taken a clear position on it. What the research doesn't support is the idea that the same minerals are harmless when they're landing on your skin barrier and hair shaft every single day, reacting with your surfactant chemistry, raising your skin's pH, coating your cuticle, and building up in ways that regular shampoo and moisturizer cannot undo. That's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to check your number, understand what you're dealing with, and make a practical decision about which part of the problem matters most to you. Bathing water and drinking water are two different variables, and the best solution probably treats them differently. Check your consumer confidence report. Find your hardness number. If it's above 120 milligrams per liter, you now know why your moisturizer disappears in an hour, why the shower screen never comes clean, and why your hair changed when you moved cities. Subscribe, because there's a lot more of this.